It's a pleasure to be here. I'm Shail Kumar. I'm going to be the moderator of this fantastic panel. I'm the author of recently published book, Building Golden India, How to Unleash India's Vast Potential and Transform Its Higher Education System Now. I invite you to learn more about the book in the author's corner. I'll be there from 2 to 3. We have half an hour for this panel discussion, and we are very cognizant of the time that's I want to offer the panelists to talk about, but also have questions from the audience. That's really, really important. Why does transforming rural youth to knowledge professionals matter? Now, if you look at India, the demographics, the poverty, and the urban migration that's taking place are three mega-scale and interrelated challenges facing India. Just consider these three major data points. One, there are 20 to 26 million children born in India every year. That's equivalent to the entire population of Australia. If India wants to be ready for this tidal wave of humanity, for in the next 35 to 50 years, it must train and educate and prepare 700 million to 1.3 billion young men and women for their lives and careers. And these people will need jobs. This is, in fact, the defining challenge for India in the 21st century and the opportunity. The second data point, India, there are 70% of population in India lives in villages. Agriculture, that's the mainstay of the village economy, accounts for just 18% of the gross domestic product of India. India has a lot of poverty. Villages are even more poor. Third, so this is not surprising then that the biggest human migration that's taking place around the world are people moving from villages to urban centers in India. It is estimated that about 400 million people will migrate in the next 35 years from villages to cities in India. Therefore, transforming rural youth to knowledge professional is not just a national imperative, perhaps it's even a global one. We have a fantastic panel here that's actually working on right now on matters that affect the entire life cycle from education in primary and secondary schools to university and then to employment and training. So I will do my best to ask the questions as well as give plenty of time for audience to engage with the panelists. So with that, I'd like to introduce the panel. To my left is Saransh Vaswani. He's the co-founder and director of SAJA. Saransh has worked on involving parents and community to improve quality of primary education in India. Damini Mahajan, to his left, is the co-founder and CEO of We Make Scholars. Her mission is to make quality education affordable to all. Murali Wulaganti, is a co-founder and director and chief mentor of Rural Shores. In his 30 years of experience, Murali has been part of the shoring revolution, onshore to nearshore, and to offshore to now rural shores. Mohammed Emersi is the chairman of Inclusive Ventures Group. He is engaged in the full spectrum of activities covering for-profit, responsible profit, and non-profit organizations. And to the extreme left is Rajiv Bhutani. He's the managing director, communications and media technology at Accenture. Rajiv runs the Accenture's internet business in Silicon Valley and has played a key role in Accenture's rural initiatives. So I have a question, and we'll go in this flow from school to university to actual training and employment in that direction. So the first question I have for all the panelists is, why does this topic matter to them, and what is their organization doing about it?
So the stats say that, you know the statistics, right? 20 to 26 million children being born. By 2020, 50% of the Indian population under the age of 23, a huge demographic dividend, as we call it, could turn out to be a demographic liability if it doesn't turn out to be good. We focus on providing primary education to children, specifically focusing on government schools. So if you look at the stats, 1.2 million government schools in India out of those schools, 50% of children studying in class 5 are not able to read class 2 text. These children move on, and I will give you a short story of in one of the villages. I was teaching in one of the villages. A boy named Vinod, age 13, studying in class 5, could not read or write, dropped off, went to work in a smaller city in a hotel because he thought the school was useless, was not letting him learn. There are around 125% of children dropping out of the schools because of lack of learning. Our focus is on getting accountability in schools, achieving accountability in schools in terms of learning, so that teachers, parents, and communities can collaborate better.
Thanks, Saransh.
Continuing to Saran's point, so some of the brightest mind in third world countries are left out in moving up in the society, talking about the vicious education system in the world. So below par education institutes, polytechnic colleges, where most of the rural and BOP end up pursuing their higher education, doesn't provide them the world-class opportunities or the opportunities to explore a quality education. So that's where we make scholars help them in finding and apply to top universities around the world. But the major concern we solve for them is the financial aid. So we provide them with a tech-enabled scholarship search engine, so where they can help and find the financial aid for their studies. So again, so 60% of Indian population is below the age of 30, which is 840 million people. So by training them or by giving them the world-class education opportunities, we are training the next biggest skilled workforce in the world. So, and our solution has a impact chain as well. So one educated person can uplift the whole society. So if I talk about, we are supported by Kakatiya Sandbox, which is in Telangana, India. And it is run by Mr. Raju Reddy, who is co-chair of TiEcon as well. So he is one example of a person who is doing his best in Nizamabad to give back to the society. And India needs many such heroes who can go back and uplift the society as a whole. And I'm proud to say that we make scholars in 1 year of its being in operation has created 800,000 such people in 214 countries around the world. And most of the users on VMake Scholars comes from countries like India, Bangladesh, Pakistan, Malaysia. And every day we receive messages from students from countries like Syria. They're looking for scholarships to pursue education in top developed countries and where the education system is good. So that's where we give our initiative help educating the people around the world by helping them. Yep.
Transforming the rural youth into knowledge professionals matters a lot to us because there are 80 million youth in rural India. Who completed about high school or a degree and looking for jobs because nothing exists in their rural settings. So they migrate to cities in search of a job, looking for a meaningful job, but end up doing some menial jobs and not able to enough money to save or send back home to support their families. So these people are kind of lost in the whole system. They're neither here nor there. And half of them are girls who generally don't migrate to the cities. The parents don't allow them to go, and they have the least voice in the society. And the boys who go, again, they end up doing some menial jobs. So we wanted to do something for them in their own villages, create a meaningful, respectable, and professional jobs. So what we do is Rural Shows, the organization we run, is a social enterprise or a for-benefit enterprise. What we do is we set up micro IT BPO centers in the rural areas and train these rural youth who completed high school or degree, train them, skill them, and employ them into those centers. And we actually outsource the work. We have the clients outsource the work to us. We bring those business processes and get the process work done in those centers. Okay. So we started about 8 years ago, and now we have, in the last 8 years, we transformed nearly about 8,000 such youth. generally after working for 3-4 years with us, doing that, those 3-4 years, they also enroll into a degree program in Open University, get a degree, and then they move out to become, now they already got 3 years of experience, so they can go and migrate to city, or they can probably look for a better job and build their career. So to date, we have set up 18 such BPO centers in the rural area in 8 different states, and there are about 4,000 people on our payroll today, and the number is increasing every month. So through this process, particularly the girls, they get to have a voice in their communities, and they have gained a lot of respect, and more importantly, self-empowerment. So there's a phenomenal transformation in that society and the communities there, and the impact is just not limited to themselves, also their families get benefited and the communities get benefited. So that's what Rural Shores does.
Thank you.
My name is Muhammad Mercy, and we set up this platform called Inclusive Ventures to focus on the gap between pure philanthropy, which is no profit, and a full profit business model. So we sit in the middle, and it's about social capital, responsible profit. On the previous panel, Hirad, Sabeti, and Radhika summarized very well the very big opportunity that we have in this space. And so we have set up a fund, an asset management company, that actually invests in innovative social business models. So look at education. If one educates a youth from the rural areas, then in essence one empowers them, finally one enables them, and then they can do what is on the TiE logo here today. They can live their dream, they can change, and then they can inspire a lot of other people. So education is absolutely vital. This space of social impact investing we were introduced to by a case study that we read of Rural Shores at the Said Business School of Oxford University, and it was hugely inspirational because in one social enterprise you educate youth, and then you do not abandon them after their education. You actually employ them by giving them jobs. If you only educate without giving them jobs, then it's absolutely pointless. Following on the same theme, we also invested in another amazing education platform that started in Africa called Bridge. The Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, Zuckerberg Education Ventures, Khosla Ventures, Omidyar Networks, they're all investors in this platform. They target families that cannot afford to pay more than $6 a month in school fees. Today, Bridge is the largest single education provider in Africa, and it is soon going to roll out in India. The state of Andhra Pradesh has given them the right to manage 2,000 schools in Andhra Pradesh alone. So why is this important? This is important because the previous panel talked about this, and I will not repeat what they said, but we are now in what I call the perfect storm. We have environmental degradation, we have population explosion, we have a big gap between the inequality gap between the top and the bottom of the pyramids. We have social and legal frameworks like the Indian CSR law mandating 2% to be set aside for CSR. So we have a convergence of a number of different initiatives that are being taken to enable this space to be properly exploited and its benefits given to the population at large. And finally, I will just say that this is the start of creative capitalism. It may take 10 years, it may take 15 years, but this is the new venture capital, and the market size of this initiative could be as much as $3 trillion in the next decade.
Thanks, Mohammed.
Yeah, thank you so much for that's exceptional. No, I think you've heard from all of the folks prior to me, but I think when you look at rural population and rural folks, and you look at transforming them into knowledge professionals, that's a huge topic for us in Accenture. The reason being, if you look at unemployment and underemployment, that's a significant issue that a number of countries face. For example, a lot of us have spoken about stats, but if you look at numbers, there are 2 billion working age individuals that are away from the labor market, and a lot of these individuals are underemployed. If you look at India, for example, that should not be the case, right? Because if there are 60% of the graduates that are coming out in India on a regular basis are coming from these geographies, the challenge that's there is that these individuals don't have an opportunity to come in and contribute to the economy in a way. I think that's the place where we come in and we work with companies such as Rural Shores to help transform and enable that population to get trained and get employed in an appropriate manner. There are two programs that we are running. The first one is it's called Skills to Succeed. This is a program where we, in a non-profit manner, will bring the best of what Accenture has developed to these individuals. We provide training, we provide mentorship, we provide coaching to these individuals and equip them to find jobs in the market. That's one. The second is we convene partnerships where we look at rural BPOs, such as Rural Shores, and we will bring work to them and work with them to make that successful. So those are the things that we do.
So, thanks so much. I mean, you guys have done amazing work, so I'm sure there are some challenges and opportunities you're facing. Can you speak to, in 1 minute each for the panelists, what are the one or two key opportunities and challenges you see? And this time, Raji, we'll start from you.
Certainly. I think from an opportunity perspective, when we look at the program that we are running, Skills to Succeed and Rural BPO program, that's a huge opportunity for us. Imagine if we look at the numbers that we have spoken about. Imagine if we can make a small impact in converting individuals or training individuals and bringing them to the market. That's a huge opportunity for us. I think the challenge is this whole unemployment issue is of a huge, huge complex scale. We have plans, we're making good progress on our plans, but I think all of us need to be working together to move the needle, so to speak. So I think that's the challenge that we want to be working on.
So I think I've identified the market potential, which is $3 trillion in the next decade or so. So the market is huge. The question is, how do you harness capital that will flow into this new market? And the biggest challenge we have there is that there is a growing number of people who might say, is it really moral? Is it fair to be seen to be making money off the poor? So that's a fundamental pushback that we get in the development of this space. The second issue we have is, how do you measure impact? Because when we look at this space, it's not about returns. It's about the 3 Ps. It's about people, it's about profits, and it's about the planet. And we get a lot of pushback about how do you measure impact. So until and unless there is a consistent and sustainable methodology for measuring impact that is capable of reporting in accounting standards, just as the way that GAAP and IFRS work, there will be an issue. And then one of the tensions we find is that people start off wanting to do good. Very quickly, when they invest in a business, their mindsets turn into, well, we want to make money. So I tell people that this is not the environment for looking for deals. I come from a deal-making background. And so now I tell my team and I tell my friends, put the letter I before deals. So let's look at ideals rather than deals.
Very nice, Mohammed. The challenges we face are of two types. One, infrastructure, because we operate in the rural parts of the country. Problems like power, connectivity, and those ones. So we have to make additional investments than a cities-based centers would do, companies do, to ensure that the center runs without interruption. The second is, more challenging, is the people side. So every time we go and set up a new center for that area, that's new. People don't know anything about, though we have 18 other centers, they don't know about those ones, and for them it's brand new. So they first reaction is very of the skepticism. Is it really true? It's too good to believe to have jobs in their own at the doorstep, right? So there is a skepticism which we need to overcome. It takes a couple of months to do that. Once they start getting the third paycheck, then they start believing it. Also, the confidence levels are so low in these people. They think that these jobs are not for them. It is for the educated urban youth. So can we do these jobs here? So it's not so about building the competency and capabilities in them. That's easy. Actually building the confidence and nurturing the talent and bring it out. That they have inherent talent, the natural latent talent. They don't know that. So our job is actually to make them know that they have that talent, build that confidence, nurture that, build it, bring it out, and then once you do that, after the journey, it takes about 6 months. After that, they just start flying like nobody's business. So, but there are challenges. Every new center, particularly with the people, we go through this deja vu again and again. Yeah.
So at We Make Scholars, our challenges, I think, which is for most of the social innovators, is reaching the more and more needy people. So even though I mentioned We Make Scholars has been used by more than 800,000 people around the world, but it has to reach those billion people. So it's not even millions, it's billion people who need such advice or information. So I think reach is the issue what we face. Though we conduct offline sessions, our international officers in Nairobi, Serbia, they go to towns near their region and conduct offline sessions to create awareness. But still, offline has its own limits. That's why we try to bring more and more people online and then try to reach them in a online way. But I think we still look for offline things like setting up mandal, a We Make Scholars kiosk in a mandal which serves 200 villages so that student can come to that center and take information. But I think reach is the concern for us, which is restricted by obviously funds and resources as well.
In terms of opportunities, I think India if you look at India, India is at a sort of a cusp of a revolution in healthcare, education, specific delivering services to the poor. So I think the opportunity, the system is being set there. People are ready to sort of innovate, look at different solutions that could come in. I think one of the challenges is the readiness of the government to sort of move with it. People are ready, they want to move ahead, they want to develop systems, but I think it sort of takes a lot of time to actually convince the government to sort of take that forward.
We have time for audience questions. And please ask the questions really, really briefly.
Yes, the four themes, inherent talent, unemployment, appropriate skills, and after that, robotics is killing jobs here, right? So we have a problem. So in the rural world, the areas that you deal with, okay, teach them to read and write, mathematics and so on, yes, but what are the things that really are going to be taught to these kids out there for them to succeed in the future?
Oh, thanks, that's a great question.
Yeah, so these rural youth, though they may have a degree, most of the times they're seeing the computer for the first time when they walk into our center. So you got to start from basics. Basic English skills, read and write, basic computer skills, but more importantly, soft skills. As I said, transforming rural youth. We're talking about transforming rustic and rugged rural youth into knowledge professionals. So building the soft skills in them, building the confidence, making them become professional, and then behave like a professional and act like a professional and build that into DNA is a journey we have to go. Now, they are working on real core business processes. They're not working on a small projects here and there and doing a small data entry and all. They're working on insurance claims, mortgage processing, and bank loan origination, what not, and even some knowledge processes. So what the 3-4 years they spend in our center, they're actually building knowledge and skills and becoming professional. And with that, and added to that, they continue a degree, on parallelly they do a degree program, or if they already degree holders, do a postgrad degree. So they're building the qualification also at the same time. Combine that, when they go out into the market, they already been sought after by the industries, particularly in India, because most of these, some of these industries like banking, insurance, and all are actually the growth is coming from the rural side, rural markets. So there's a need for the people to recruit in those. So we are actually creating a number of these skilled resources to be employed by those at the senior level, supervisors and managers.
Saransh and then Mohammed. Sure.
So in terms of what we will teach, I think we will have to skip a step here. We are right now on reading mathematics, and then we're sort of moving on to robotics and stuff, I think, which is necessary. And in India specifically, we'll have to jump that step of actually moving on to much more engineering stuff. I think we need to move towards 21st century skills. We need to teach our children how to work in a team, how to empathize, how to sort of build things. But there's a huge sort of gap currently, if you look at people are not able to read towards moving towards empathy. But I think we need to move there and teach our children those skills that are necessary for a globalized world right now.
So very quickly, we are very proud of our investment in Rural Shores, which is IT-based, but the real opportunity when you look at it is, look at India's farming industry. We've heard from the panel before, 2 panels before, you need to bring the farming into the 21st century, and that's where knowledge is going to matter a lot. If you look at India's food production industry, did you know that India wastes more milk a year than the entire production of the EU in milk, simply because there isn't enough knowledge on refrigeration, on saving of milk and conversion of milk into products. So then we look at the other challenges India faces, which is distribution, marketing, enablement, a cashless society. Imagine that India is so vast. You cannot have a bank in every village. You cannot have an ATM in every village. So the opportunities of skilling these individuals by giving them and empowering them with knowledge will open a whole vista of new industries in India.
I think just to add to that, what we've seen is just to add to that, what we've seen is the confidence that these individuals get when they're working in such type of environments is profound in changing the way they look at the world and the way they go after opportunities, right? I mean, we've heard about skills. I'm not worried about robotics at this point in time, to be honest. Yes, people talk about it. It's a phenomenon that's taking place. But when I go and talk to different companies, what they're looking for is people who can have a hybrid skill, so to speak, right? So these are people who come in with problem-solving mindset. These are people who come in with confidence, and these are people who can come in and work with teams to go and change a particular problem. So we're pretty jazzed about this.
Yes, over there at the back. Oh, there was one.
Hi, I have a comment and a question. The comment is, I was in India just past December, a whole month, and I spent time in the UP villages. So like what you just said, I totally agree that there is a lot of wastage of farming and a lot of wastage in just maintaining the production. I had a comment on that point, that why aren't we looking into building the infrastructure with the help of the government? I witnessed there was a lot of bureaucracy. There are a lot of namesake schools that are open in the rural areas, but they're just to collect the funding that's coming from the government, but nobody's doing the checks and balances to see if that is there. There are poles and things that are there for electricity, but there's no electricity. So what are we doing about that? Second thing is, I'm a youth chair here locally. I run a youth program. What are kids here able to do with e-learning and all the processes that we can connect the kids here to empower the kids back in the rural areas? If there's any suggestions, to let me know. Thank you.
So let me start by making one comment. I applaud India for introducing the mandatory 2% CSR on larger companies. And I think that this is something that will be slowly followed by the entire Commonwealth. When you have a 2% there that is going to be able to be disbursed in creating this sort of knowledge-based opportunities in the rural areas of India, I think that that is absolutely big. Now, I don't actually live in India, but I would imagine that because it's the largest democracy in the world, you've seen how difficult it is to actually get things done in democracies, because for every one person saying we want to do something, there is at least half a person saying that we do not want to do this. And changing mindsets which have been used to be living in villages with a particular social, cultural mindset is a huge challenge. So I think that there are all these barriers, but I hope that the Modi government is slowly and surely going to overcome most of these.
We'll take one more response and maybe one more question.
Okay, well, one thing that I've seen, I can understand how when you see certain things, it leads to a level of frustration. But there's one thing that I've seen in the past 2 decades that I've been in this industry. A lot of people will overestimate the short term and underestimate the long term. But there are enough things that are being done to move forward, and we are hoping that you'll see the change. I mean, the CSR point that you mentioned is profound, and you will see organizations deploy it in an appropriate manner. So that's how we look at it.
We had a question in the back.
I'll give a brief introduction so you guys know where I'm coming from, and then I have a question. I'm a founder of a digital literacy company called Club Internet. What we do is that we try to make the internet and technology more usable for the next billion who are yet to come online. And majority of our demographic naturally falls into the rural youth. And building on to that, if you have read the current criticism in books such as Geek Heresy, there is this narrative that when you provide technology to these people, they don't have a razor-sharp focus on building skills or how to use it to increase their own productivity. So my question to the honorable panel is that there are some universal truths that you guys have discovered that you're willing to share with us that can help us design technology with a razor-sharp focus on increasing productivity in the rural sector of the country.
Great question. Saransh, you want to?
Please, sure. You start and then I'll follow.
So I think one of the primary sort of learnings that I've sort of got is believe that they'll be able to learn by themselves. And I'll give you short examples of what I've seen. If you just place a computer in front of kids, right, there's an experiment called the hole in the wall. Place the computer, let the children learn, they'll learn what to do with it. I think the belief needs to be there that these children, these youth that are coming up, if you give them right opportunities, they'll take it up and they know how to sort of work along with it and take it to the next level. It requires time, it requires patience to sort of deal with them, but I think you'll have to believe in them. Also, one comment, quick comment on the government part, I think one has to believe that you will find good people in the government. And we work very closely with them, so I think believe that there are good people who will work along with the system and sort of take this to the next level.
No, go ahead.
So what I was going to add is what I said before, which is this is going to require a big sea change in the way the social fabric of society is generally built. And I think that if India looks and finds one state, it could be Gujarat, for example, because that's where Modi came from. And if in that one state you implement some of the practices that have been advocated here today, is how do you digitize and how do you transform the youth? How do you give them the power that digital technology brings? And it can be through a number of different industries and different livelihoods. And once you showcase that how it can work and it can bring efficiencies in one state, I think that other states can follow suit.
Yeah, and just a quick comment on this. I think the technology and the digitization is something which rural is anyway adopting to. So if you look at the stats of mobile internet users in India, it's increasing substantially. So they are using WhatsApp and they are getting, though they don't have computers or they don't have skills, but they are getting adapted to the new technologies which are digitization which is happening. So it's not something we have to handhold them and teach them. They are learning those skills and getting aware of this.
Well, I'm told the time's up. I hope you learned a lot from this panel. The challenges are daunting, but the opportunities are exciting. So please join me in giving a big round of applause to the panel.